Welcome to Tribal Ready Learning Circle. Chamai, hello. My name is Katrina Tysinger. My elder given name is Sakhalak, and I'm Yupik Eskimo from the Bristol Bay region of Alaska. I am the Tribal Funding Strategist with Learn, Design, Apply, and I'm so excited that you've joined us today for this Tribal Ready Broadband Grant session. A little bit about Learn, Design, Apply. We are a grant consulting firm, and we have an entire broadband team dedicated to working with clients on broadband grants. We have secured millions of funding for tribes and understand the significance of Indian country in promoting digital equity. In partnership with Tribal Ready, these sessions are designed to utilize values as a foundation in cultivating tools and resources specific for tribes in the broadband grant writing process, all while maintaining cultural relevance and sensitivity from a tribal perspective. We understand that many tribes are seeking out external resources to aid in this process. These sessions are designed to provide some directed insight on considerations to look at as you work to build broadband infrastructure onto tribal land. We're going to discuss broadband funding and grant considerations related to the cultural value of sustainability. As Indigenous people, living with the next generation in mind is part of our culture. Let's discuss how this significant viewpoint adds value to the broadband grant application. In your narrative content, find ways to incorporate specific examples on your tribe's intrinsic way of life as you share historical as well as current sustainability practices. Indigenous communities have always worked on preserving culture, as well as focusing energy on planning for generations to come. Telling your unique story and the cultural practices you have all start with broadband access. Think of the traditional language classes you hold online, or the digital library or archive that showcases your tribe's artifacts. These add substance to your story and help justify the need for high-speed broadband. Work with engineering and consulting partners to interweave your tribe's sustainability practices into the infrastructure design. Ensure you are on the same page in sustainability efforts. Many funders include sustainability as scoring criteria, so including sustainability practices into multiple narratives will help justify this score. As the ancient native proverb tells us, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, but we borrow it from our children. From the shift in climate as well as cultural considerations, tribes can again utilize their story and the ways we as people live in a manner that considers the earth. One of the first suggested efforts is to understand climate risks applicable to the area in which the proposed project will take place. Does it experience flooding? Is there a history of wildfires? Working in partnership with an environmental consulting group whose focus is solely on mitigating risk is something to consider, especially if your tribal land is prone to catastrophic events. These consultants are up to speed on the federal and state mandates for environmental surveys and permitting. Again, integrating the value of your cultural resources as they relate to sustainability is another way to stand out in a grant application. What historic sites or sacred places are you considering as you build? Are there known archaeological sites? Incorporating these into your narrative emphasizes to the funder that you value your land and are already making considerations to protect and sustain it. Another grant tip is to ensure you use the funder's recommended references, websites, and maps to research data on your area and use multiple sources for a stronger application. Let's listen in as Justin Roller, president of Bonfire Fiber of Bonfire Infrastructure Group, discusses cultural, environmental, and climate considerations for building on tribal land.
Hi, this is Justin Roller with Bonfire Engineering and Construction, and I wanted to share some of our thoughts today with permitting for projects on tribal lands. And I think one of the first things we would think of is always it's a little bit more complicated on tribal lands than just a standard right-of-way process you might encounter in other parts of the country. I think you have to think about, in addition to just your right-of-ways, you have to think about environmental and also really importantly cultural. And you have to kind of link together all those elements in order to effectively permit and move your broadband project along. I think one of the things we would say is that you want to try to start fast. A lot of times you can give yourself enough time. You can say, hey, we've got 6 months or we've got 9 months to do permitting. But what that can sometimes lead to is a situation where you might spend weeks and weeks, planning and deciding how do you want to attack it. And I think trying to get started with some urgency can really help you in your project, as you are going to have to navigate through kind of a long process sometimes, and there's certain things that are out of your control, like with the BAA or something like that, where you're going to have to maybe potentially wait for weeks or even months for responses on things. So you want to get started and kind of get those longer items moving as quickly as you can. Even if you do have a long window that you've given yourself, you don't want to let that window start to slip away. Another one of the things I think we recommend is try to get tips from the people around at the different parts of the tribe who may have experience in permitting any kind of large project before, and making sure that you're hearing voices from the different segments of the community. Because we've had a situation before where you get started, you get everybody sign off that this is a good location to put a telecommunications tower, for example, and everybody thinks it all works. It's pre-disturbed ground, you do all the right things. But then maybe you find out that what you did is inadvertently stuck it just east of a ceremonial ground, and now, if there's a morning prayer and people are looking to the east, they've now got this ugly tower, and they're ruining their views. So you need to think about maybe a few more things than you have to somewhere else, and you want to get the voices of other people in the community, just so you're thinking of all the things that maybe you haven't thought of. So, and that could be anything from those kind of cultural aspects to environmental things. Perhaps every time you cross the river, you have to worry about there being fish habitat, or there being spawning season that you need to avoid, or whatever. So they're just trying to learn a little bit is important, because every project is different, and then the rules are a little bit different. So you want to get started early. I think you want to try to get multiple voices and multiple opinions from the community, and you want to kind of expect the unexpected. I think is the last piece, and give yourself some time to work through maybe uninspected items that might come up. And then you have to be a little bit flexible. Maybe you need to start construction in a different area than what you thought you were going to do before. But that flexibility to kind of roll with the unexpected, I think, will really pay off in the long run. So those are kind of our three things that we kind of like to think about when it comes into permitting and right away on a broadband project.
Tribes may want to consider adding in sustainability practices and processes into their business model, a model that creates value for stakeholders without depleting the resources that produced them. Sustainability can be integrated into the physical component of the infrastructure, but the goals, objectives, and investments should reflect this value as well. If a maintenance and operations plan has not been created, incorporating this into your budget would be beneficial to mention on the grant application. This plan lays out clear approaches on how you plan to manage your network and demonstrates that you are ready for expansion. For some grant applications, funders want to know your specific plans on maintaining the infrastructure for up to 20 years. Capacity building should be considered as you work to expand your tribal broadband network. This includes administrative tasks, such as project management and grant administration, to the more physical components, such as splicing and laying fiber and maintaining network usability. More opportunities are being brought to the table, such as tribal broadband boot camp and fiber certification programs provided by local colleges and universities. These provide a great space to foster new partnerships with your local community to help train and expand local workforce. Again, incorporating capacity building goals into your maintenance and operations plan is recommended. This will show funders that you are considering how to sustain the infrastructure and also the workforce managing it. Funders want to know your strategy for recruiting and retaining a skilled and credentialed workforce for the newly built infrastructure. When developing a budget for a broadband grant, certainly you are considering sustainability. Sustainability of the project requires more than simply funds for the equipment. It involves less tangible things as well. These should be included in your budget if allowed by the funder. Depending on the grant, community engagement can be a key component, but it does take a calculated effort. You want to get buy-in from your community. Marketing, especially if you are promoting an affordable plan for the end user, is another consideration. Your current or proposed efforts can be added into narratives on affordability and community engagement. Performance reporting provides data points on economic growth and community benefits, which manages project risks and avoids pitfalls. Our last grant tip for this session is the budget. Don't wait until the deadline to start working on your budget. As a grant writer, I know several components are needed to start on it, but speaking from experience, stress is prevented when you work on it sooner than later. Guyana, thank you for joining us today for this Tribal Ready Learning Circle session on broadband considerations related to sustainability. Check out our other value-driven Tribal Ready sessions to learn more about tribal resources for expanding broadband infrastructure in Indian country.